$550 billion loses company that has disengaged employees. Oh my God, it was found by the Engagement Institute. But an employee engagement consultant could help to resolve this problem. What should you know as a specialist to exaggerate the profit of your client and in return earn money and build your online consultancy business? Here you go, we are starting. The answers you will get in this video. My name is Daria and welcome to Introvise. So today we are talking about the modern approach to employee engagement consulting with the employee engagement specialist who has 30 years of experience in helping people creating this kind of work culture. With us is Stephen Halligan. Stephen, I'm really happy that you are with us with Introvise.
Oh. My pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
Yes, thank you very much that you agreed to have interview with Introvise with me. So first of all, I would like to tell some information about the Gallup State of the Workplace report. So the average number of highly engaged employees is 15% only. On the other hand, over 2/3 of leaders see the value of having highly engaged employees, but we seem to be pretty bad at doing it. So why? Could you explain low employee engagement? What is the reason of such negligibility?
Yeah, we call this the people asset paradox. So every senior leader you talk to will say to you, people are my most important asset. And they probably genuinely mean it. And yet when you talk to their employees, they say, well, it's very strange because it doesn't feel like it when I'm working there. So in our experience, there are 3 reasons why we have this disconnect between what people think is important and saying how important their people are and the reality of what people experience. The first one is some leaders don't actually mean it. They say these things because they go to the conferences, they read the books, they attend webinars, they talk to their colleagues, and they're all told to tell you that people are your most important asset. But they don't actually mean that people are your important asset. So they're just doing it because they're playing the game. We don't like to deal with people like that. You cannot change people's minds like that. If that's the game they want to play, they're going to do that. But there are 2 other reasons. The second reason, I think, is that some people, they genuinely believe it. They've tried to put things into place to try and motivate and engage their people, but just somehow it's not working. And then the third reason is people believe it, but they just don't even know where to start. It's such a complex, challenging issue. So I think those 3 areas, roughly, there's only about 10-15% of people, I think, who don't genuinely mean it. You know, they say it because they think it's the right thing to say. The rest of them are broken down into these other 2 groups.
But they lose their profitability. As I know, that report said that, not engaged workforce could generate 21% plus of profitability of the company. So they understand, but they, just neglect it.
Well, it's one of those situations where people don't always like to confront the truth. They know that they're not making as much money as they could, but they blame it on other things. Maybe it was market conditions. Maybe I don't have the right people. Maybe there was some problem with our products and services. They don't like to accept the fact that actually it could be something down to the way that I'm actually trying to motivate and engage people. So people have got to be quite brave and look in the mirror and say, I think I'm partly responsible for this.
Yeah, but one good thing that there are employee engagement consultants who could help with that. So they just, these companies give the workforce for different professions, because there are employee engagement, health engagement consultants, and so on, so on. So we have one more profession in consultancy business. And you, Stephen, in LinkedIn wrote an enormously important thing that every business should know. The challenge is that most of your managers have been promoted because of their technical skills, not their ability to engage and motivate the team. Imagine how much more effective they can be if they have access to the world's best thinking on motivation and engagement. So, Stephen, how do you help to overcome this issue as an employee engagement consultant?
It's a good point. You're absolutely right. Most people perform well in their job technically, so they get noticed by the company, so they get promoted. And then at some point, their technical skills become less and less important because they're not doing those things anymore. They're predominantly managing other people. And generally, the company hasn't helped them to make that transition. They still think they know what they're doing because they were competent when they were doing the technical things. So the first thing in any change process is, and any consultant that's trying to help a client change, is they have to understand that there is a problem to begin with in the first place. So recognition from the client that something needs to change is important. There's a very old joke about how many psychiatrists does it take to change a light bulb? And the answer is only one, but the light bulb has really got to want to change. You can't force people to make changes. So the first thing a consultant needs to do is try and help a client understand the very issues you've just mentioned. Are you getting the productivity you want from people? Are you getting the profitability? Are you getting the teamwork and collaboration? And if you're not, it could well be down to the fact that we've promoted people into positions without paying proper care and attention to the new skills that they're going to need in these newer roles. So point one, always try and get the client to acknowledge that there is a challenge, there's some difficulty, there's some roadblock and some hurdle that they are facing. And what is the root cause of that particular challenge? You're not able to provide any solutions until everybody's agreed on the fact that this is something we need to fix, and these are the root cause problems of it.
But for example, if I would like to start my consultancy online business in employee engagement from scratch, what I should do first of all? What tools I need to have?
Well, the first thing is I wouldn't go to a client and say, we can make your employees more engaged, because quite frankly, they look up and say, I don't really care. You need to talk about whether they're getting the profitability and the performance they need. So you need to engage with senior management on a conversation about business benefits rather than making it a nicer, better place for people to work. So you need to get your what we call your pickup line or your tagline sorted out. What are you there to do? You're not there to make people happy. You're not there to make sure they have a great time when they come to work. Those things are a side benefit. You're there to help make sure the company achieves its goals, is profitable and productive. Now, most CEOs want that to happen in the business. The second thing you've got to do is you've got to really understand what engagement is. And this is where there's a big challenge, because if you look at the history of engagement, nobody cared. 40 years ago, you didn't hear, you're far too young to remember, but you didn't hear anybody talking about employee engagement. What happened is we went from making sure our customers were satisfied. So the banks, the airlines, the restaurants, the hotels, they would send you surveys to say, are you happy with your last visit? Did you have a good meal? Was the flight good? And then somebody realized that there was a link between, if my customers are satisfied, then it's probably because my employees are satisfied. So if I can keep my employees happy, they will do a better job with my customers. So the first surveys that came out to try and track this kind of challenge were all about satisfaction. Are you happy with this? Are you happy with the pay you get? Are you happy with your manager? Are you happy with your promotions? About 25 years ago, people started to talk about engagement, but they didn't change the questions they were asking employees. They just changed the name from employee satisfaction survey to employee engagement survey. And yet engagement is a very different construct. Consultants need to help their customers understand having an engaged employee does not mean that the employee is wonderfully happy all the time. It doesn't mean that they're beautifully satisfied with everything all the time. I can be very strongly engaged at a company, but very unhappy about the way that we're working. My products need to improve. I don't like the way my management's treating me, but I do believe in the company. I do believe in what I do. It's a little bit like your country at the moment. People are very engaged with the country, so they don't leave just because things have started to go wrong.
But how consultants, employee engagement consultants, could help, a company to earn more money, for example, thanks to, their tools that they propose to use to each other company?
Firstly, you've got to make sure you're using a tool that properly measures engagement, because if you're just measuring happiness and satisfaction, you can change those things and it will not give you the productivity. It will not give you the performance improvements. So you've got to look at the key drivers of engagement. Now, we've developed a tool over the years that looks at 12 issues, and we don't talk about engagement as a binary process. It's not. The Gallup report says 85% of people are disengaged, 67% are disengaged, and 18% are actively disengaged. and only 15% are engaged. It's not an either or. If you turn up for work in the morning, whether it's online or whether it's face-to-face, you are engaged, but you can have two types of engagement. And consultants need to educate their clients that at the lowest level, you have transactional engagement. And in a transactional engagement, you've employed me to do certain things. I see it as a contract. So I have agreed to do these things for you. And in return, the company does these things for me. It gives me a salary, it gives me a bonus, it gives me healthcare, whatever the package is. That does not give you the kind of performance that companies are looking for. That just gives people compliance. They just do what's asked of them, but nothing more. The kind of engagement they need to work on is the second type, called emotional engagement, where I am committed to what I'm doing. I'm passionate about my work. I can see where my work has some impact in the organization. I am respected for what I do. I feel valued by the organization. People listen to my opinion. That kind of engagement is the type that really drives people to go the extra mile and put in the extra effort. So my advice to consultants would be, look at some tools that you can use to measure these things, but don't just measure it in a binary fashion and say, either people are engaged or they're disengaged. They're not. They're all engaged, but you've got this group of people who just see it as a transaction. And until you change their mindset, they're not going to give you these extra performance goals that you want to achieve. Look at the second type. Look at the emotional type, which is much more powerful.
Yeah, but for example, could we just explain it using a use case? For example, IT business or online marketing or e-commerce. So, online marketing. How we could help a company engage, just to form the best employee engagement. For example, what we should know about the company as a specialist.
Okay, well, firstly, you've got to do your homework on the company. Obviously, find out what their mission is, what their vision is, how do they present themselves to the outside world. There's a concept called employer branding. So we all understand branding. If I say to you Mercedes-Benz or BMW, you have an impression in your head of that brand. Companies also have a brand. So when you mention Microsoft, when you mention Apple, when you mention Dell, people start to have a vision of what that organization is going to be like. So what is the employer branding? What are the messages they're sending out to people that they're going to attract into that business? Because obviously I come then with a set of expectations because you've told me what a wonderful company you are. The way you implement the model is different, but there's a model we use that if you want to engage your people is very powerful. It's called the PERK model, P-E-R-K. So you need to work with your leaders to make sure everybody has a strong sense of purpose. The P is purpose. Not just understanding what do I do, but why do I do it? Why is it valuable to the business? Why is it valuable to the organization? Why is it valuable to me? Why is it valuable to my customers? The stronger a sense of purpose that people have, the more emotionally engaged they will be. The E is for engagement. Can I come to work as my authentic self? Can I speak up when I feel there's something that isn't right? Can I be my true character? Are my vision and values in line with the organization's vision and values? So I'm not pretending to be someone else to fit in to that organization. The R is for resilience. We are living in difficult times. You guys know more than anybody how true that is at the moment. So have we created a safety net within our organization where when I make a mistake, when things go wrong, when I get depressed, when I have mental health problems, is there some way of looking after me and patting me down and helping me get back up onto the ladder again and performing well? And the K is for kindness. Do we treat people like proper human beings? Do we treat them with compassion? Do we realize they've got a life outside of work? They're not just there to do your bidding 24/7. So whatever business it is, whether it's online marketing, whether it's a high-tech company or fintech company, whether it's a bank, those four principles are incredibly important. But the way that this is where the consultant skill comes in, because the way they are implemented would vary from project to project. And the consultant should work with them saying, here's a general model. How should we implement that within your business?
And if we are talking about you, Steve, so you have a long way just of practicing. So what are you just doing to find clients? How do you just form this clientele?
A lot of content. You have to get a lot of material out there. You have to use platforms like LinkedIn and others where you really have to show your expertise. So there's thousands of people that will tell you we can come in, we can do this, we can do that. You've got to prove it to them. So you've got to show content that is actually valuable to them. It's not just trying to sell them something. So give them something, give them some templates, give them some models, give them some things they can use. We're looking at setting up a whole series of webinars. We're setting up a user group where people can just post their challenges and their problems, and no fee, just put them through to us. It's also good for us because it keeps us in touch with what's happening in the market and whether our solutions are still relevant to the market. So it's really all about content. Don't try and sell a product. Try and sell your expertise. Try and explain to people, this is what we've done, this is how we've done it, this is how it's valuable. Give them something for free. Help them, first of all. It's like any relationship. If we met in a real world social environment, and as soon as I find out what you do, I try and start selling you something, you're going to back off at 100 miles an hour. It's too much. It's too soon. You have to build up the relationship with people, help them understand who you are, and help them realize that you are genuinely trying to help. I think my top tip to any consultant who's going to do this, it's tough because people kick back against it sometimes because you're asking them to change. Don't do this just as a way of making money. You have to genuinely believe it's an important thing to do, and you have to be passionate and believe in what you're doing. If you do it just because you think it's something that's going to make you money, that will not work.
Yeah, so first of all, we should think about the process, not about, money, profit of employee engagement consultant. What about you? How long did it take for you to start make money for your just well-being?
We're still working on it. It's a constant work in progress. Anybody in the consulting business, it's not a linear path. You don't say, okay, this month we did X and the next month we're going to do X plus. It's a roller coaster ride. It really depends. We took maybe 3 years to get the basis of our product offering up together, understand what worked with people, what didn't. We'd be lucky in between. We'd get some projects in between, but to have a consistent way of talking to people and bringing them into a revenue stream, it probably took about 3 years. But we constantly have to modify it. We constantly have to look at what the needs of the market.
But how do you measure the efficiency of your work? For example, you just you start to work with a company in 1 year. What you could do to understand how your tools worked before with the employee?
Well, first of all, you've got to agree with the client what they want to change in the first place. So what outcomes would you like to go? In fact, it's a really good question, because we don't put, and I would advise, again, anyone looking to go into this business, don't look at putting projects together on a fee base. We'll spend this number of days and look at it on an outcome base. So you sit and you talk with your client about what outcomes do they want to see. So if we were talking 12, 18 months down the line, what would you want to be different? And how would we know that? What would we need to measure to make those? And then you put your fee together based on achieving those outputs. And then you do everything possible within that time. So you're not saying, oh, we need to run another workshop, so that's going to cost you another $1,000, or we need to do another survey, so that's going to cost $10,000. You've agreed a fee. You'll do what is necessary to achieve that goal. So then what you do is you measure at the beginning, where are we right now in those areas we want to change the outcomes. You make the interventions, and then within a reasonable time frame, you go back and measure again. So let me give you an example. If we do a survey at the beginning and we find out that people are very unhappy with the performance review system, I don't like the way it's being managed. We've got this ridiculous bell curve where they can only give so many people high marks and everyone in the middle, and then they've got to give so many people low marks. I'm getting a low mark because other people have got a high mark, not because I did a bad job. Okay, we can fix that. But what we have to do is spend maybe 18 months or 2 years fixing that, because you've got to redesign the performance review system. You've got to test it. You've got to train all the managers on it. And everybody's got to go through at least one cycle of getting the new performance review and seeing how happy they are with that. So there's no point in going back and remeasuring until maybe 2 years down the line. Otherwise, they're going to look up and say, you said this was going to change and it didn't. The third thing you need to add into that measurement is, what has it done to productivity? What has it done to performance? What has it done to people leaving? What has it done to the number of promotions? Whatever the metrics were you agreed with at the beginning, you see what you put into place and what impact it had, not just on people's feelings and sentiment, but what did it have on those harder measures that we were trying to change in the first place. So you're constantly looking for that linkage between what they said they wanted to change, what you did, and the impact that it had.
Yeah, but if you are talking about profitability of the company, how could you just estimate the impact you, for example, you have on the company now? So what results could you share with us?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. I wish I had the answer to that. I don't have a complete answer to that because it's what we call a compounding variable. So we can do all the things that we've agreed. Let's take profitability as a good example. So we can say all the things that we've done have had a tremendous impact on profitability. People are more efficient, they're more effective, but your competitors just come out with a much better product that nobody saw 18 months ago. So your profitability has gone down. So we can do so much. And again, that would be my advice to consultants. Don't overpromise. You cannot go in there and say, if we change this, this, and this, I guarantee you your profits are going to go up 50%, because you're digging yourself your own grave. Okay? Because you can't control that. So all we can do is look at the measures over the things that we can control. Look at 2008 when the financial crisis hit. We were working with a number of banks and financial institutions. The work we're doing could not stop that financial crash.
And now, Stephen, I would like to answer you some Introvise brand questions, very short questions for you and very short answers from you. How did you find your first client?
On Introwise or generally?
Wow.
No, you're asking how we found it on Introwise or how we find our...
No, just in your life.
Oh, that was word of mouth referral. I was working for a company and then I left and they were previous customers.
And what about Introvise? What you started?
Intowise is very useful for us in terms of reaching out to people. So what we do at the moment is we put a lot of videos up on LinkedIn and other channels. And one of the services we offer is a free 90-minute workshop. So we will talk you through a workshop where we audit what we think you're doing in key areas that will motivate and engage people. And we'll do that for free. And we use Introwise for people to book that call with us. In fact, any other call as well. We have clients that we are currently working with where they've done some online materials, and then we have coaching calls. So people book the coaching calls through Introwise as well.
And what is the effectiveness of using Introvise like that?
I think it's excellent. It's a really good tool. It's very easy to use. The calendar system is nice and simple. People can go on, book the sessions when they want them to. You can actually tell the system when you are available, which is nice. So it doesn't just go into your calendar and let people make slots at times that you can't work with. So you can say, look, I'm only really got Tuesday afternoons and Thursday mornings for these calls, and they can book them off for now. Yes, and it works pretty well. We've never had any issues with it.
Did you just recommend your colleagues Introvise?
I have, yeah, and all of our customers as well. So by default, our customers are using it because when they book with us, they're using it. So they get to see it when they use it on our calls.
Okay, why did you become an employee engagement consultant?
We came from a training background. So I was predominantly training in organizations, and there was one client in particular, again, I won't mention the name, but they wanted to improve their customer service. And we started running customer workshops for their customer service teams. And after 3 of these workshops, I had to go to the CEO and I said, I'm sorry, this just isn't going to work. And he was quite an abrupt individual. And he said, why? What is wrong? What is wrong with your training? And I said, there's nothing wrong with our training. They have the skills. They know what to do. They just don't want to do them. And he said, why not? And I said, because of the way your organization is treating them.
What is your best business advice?
Don't expect miracle results too quickly.
Oh, okay.
Always think of your customer.
What is your... Yes. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I was told many years ago by someone, this is not my piece of advice. He said to me, if you have dollar signs in your eyes, you will always have dollars in your eyes. If you have your customer in your eyes, you will have dollars in your pocket.
Yeah. What is your best business advice?
It would be, as I say, to really focus on the customer. Don't go in there telling the customer this is what you need to do. Go in and try and understand. Before you try and advise on anything, make sure you understand their situation, because every situation is unique. Every client is different.
How do you deal with competitors?
Everybody has value. If someone's in business, then they have a product offering or a service that people respect. I think what you have to do is constantly look at where you can add value. So people are more concerned with value than they are price. Price on doesn't mean anything. You've got to see what value for money they're getting. So what we try and do is be better value for money than anyone else.
Okay, Stephen, thank you very much for this interview. It was really very useful for me to know more about employee engagement consultancy, and I hope that you also have a pleasure to talk with us with Introvise. Thank you very much.
It was lovely. And if anybody wants to reach out, I'm sure they'll get my details from this. Anybody who's thinking of starting in the business, I'm very happy to talk to them and give them some specific advice if they need it.
Okay, that's great information for our audience. I would like to remind you that this video is one of the informative ways to help you to monetize your expertise online. Introwise is all about inspiration, tech, and business.